Welcome along. It's another Westerly VR series race preview. This one's special. It's the first one of Series 3. Series 3, Race 1. So it's Westerly VR 3.1. Starting at the Polish War Memorial, but the other side of the roundabout, so you're not actually going to see it in that shot. But as I say, it is the Polish War Memorial. And we are going along the A40 in a westerly direction, heading from the east. And this will take us out of town eventually, with a little bit of loopage around Denham to build in a hill just to make the race interesting around the middle, or about a third of the way round section. The name of this race is Colne de Denham. It's supposed to sound like Col de, as if a French climb, but in fact the Colne is a river, so we'll be doing anything other than going upwards when we're going towards the Colne itself, because of course rivers tend to be at the bottom of valleys. Not always. I mean, they start up high, of course, but anyway, the only climb that you're going to really see today is in Ickenham, which is not too far from the start, probably about a third of the way round, and we'll talk you through it as we go up it. So this little section, which we've used several times, and the reason for this is that it's one of few routes that we take out of London, and the advantage of this little cycleway here is that obviously it's quite fast. You don't have to sort of stop at traffic lights and things like that, so you shed a few miles of outer London and find yourself in the countryside that much quicker. You can also do a nice little pace along here if you really want to, and if you want to practice time trial mode, it's probably as good a place as any, because you shouldn't find too many obstacles. Now, that said, in a very rare occurrence, there was a slight obstacle along this one when I was filming. Also bizarre, because it was the third time I'd been along this little section this morning, and the obstacle wasn't there on the previous two occasions, of course. I say it wasn't there. The reason for it was there. We were going to see in a moment, there's a little car crash, which I don't know when it happened, but when we passed earlier, the police forensic team were going all over the car, so I think they found a little bit more in the car than perhaps they bargained for. I don't know what the driver might have been under the influence of, or just carrying, but as I say, there was a forensic team all over the car a few minutes before this. They'd obviously finished by the time we reached it, and you can just about see it coming up now. And I think they were going to take away the car and the lorry, but to do so, I had to put the lorry on our cycle track, which was a little bit unfortunate and slowed things down. Guarantee that these sorts of obstacles won't be there on your RGT race on the day. So there we are, just squeeze through here. And you can see the bumper hanging off the car there that's been in the crash, the policeman, and the van from the guy who's, I think that was the forensic team's van actually. The other guy there was the lorry driver who was about to sort of pick the car up and put it on the lorry and tow it away. Right, so back up to normal speeds as we head along the A40 cycle path, split into cycle path and walkway. Not that too many people will strictly abide by the demarcation, because it's not usually that crowded along here, and you can see someone coming for a long way off, so it kind of works on a very casual basis. I'm sure as things go on and cycling increases in popularity ahead of the summer, I suspect this summer you'll probably see more people on this little cycle path than you are today. It was quite cold filming this on this occasion, so there won't be so many people out. We'd just been for a little club ride, and I finished the club ride and then just quickly filmed this. One of the guys came out in shorts and was very, very cold. The rest of us had tights on, so not so bad. Of course, it was one of those things where if you were going out cycling all day, you couldn't have got it right, because later on it warmed up and the sunshine came out. But there we are. This was earlier in the morning. So all very flat, nothing too tactical, flat, straight, no bends to contend with. Remember, RGT does put the braking in on a bend, so you will slow down on a bend. This is all very straight. We're just going to go up to a set of traffic lights very shortly and hang a right. Most of these bends, I have made smooth to the extent that they won't be harsh 90 degrees and slow you down completely. But I do leave them in there so that I don't take away the bends, but I just make them that little bit more rounded to ease the race around them. So, as I say, we're just coming up to the traffic lights. I'm not 100% sure why the cycle path leaves the side of the road there, but it does. But what it does facilitate is a couple of little alleyways into the houses, which are just the other side of the trees on our left. There's most of these people walking along here will probably live in those houses that you'll start to see in a minute. And in fact, we take the little alleyway that's just coming up on the left quite regularly as one of our ways out of London. So we can either go straight on here or we turn left just past where this guy is walking. And we go through the houses up there. In fact, here, this is where the turning is. So we go through there. There's a little cycle path, joins the road and takes us up towards Hillingdon Hill. These, as I say, these roads will feature quite a lot in a lot of our rides and races because if we're going to start from our heartland, then these are the ways out of London. Not all Westerly VR races do start in West London, and we've got some that definitely start outside of West London because we've selected a route for various reasons. We like to mix the routes up, so some are flat, some have small hills at the start, finish or end, just to mix the race up and make each one different. Westerly VR races are always slightly different, and we always attempt to give you a preview of the race in real life so you can actually see what it looks like before you ride it. You can also look at the route on Ride with GPS, and we put all links on our website. That's www.westerly with an EY at the end, .cc. So here we are. This is Hillingdon Circus. You won't see any animals because circus also means basically a roundabout. That's where the word comes from, circle, isn't it? This is a strange junction because this used to be the main road, but it was diverted a few years ago when they built a new train station and they moved the railway tracks and so on and so forth. So, as I say, this is once a very, very busy junction, not so much now, although it keeps all the traffic lights, which we edit out the wait, and turn right towards Hillingdon Station. So, as I say, this little climb here is very small. You won't... I don't think it's enough to shake the race up, but it's essentially the new bridge that they built over the motorway and the railway and everything else like that. Well, in fact, I lied. This bridge was actually here before. You can see the old pub just on the left, but it's the railway station that changed things, and essentially, I've got my timeline wrong, haven't I? Because this is a relatively new bridge in the sense it's probably been there sort of 25 years. But it was the railway bridge underneath it that was new and recent. But as I say, the traffic lights down the bottom were the old main road before they built the underpass that we're just passing over. So we've got a nice little cycle lane here. And it's quite a nice little road, long lane, leading down to Ickenham. So we've got the benefit of descent, and we do get some pace along here. Unfortunately, we're about to hit some roadworks. Normally, you would get very good pace along this road. In either direction, actually, it doesn't suffer too much from headwinds, largely because I think it's going north to south, and winds in the UK, more often than not, are westerly. And I think today's was easterly, but it's not very often you suffer headwinds on this road. So that's the traffic lights, rather stalling our momentum along there. And respect due to the guys actually working on a Sunday. There. Back onto the cycle lane. Now, in a moment, we're going to hit Ickenham Village and turn left, and that is more or less where I would denote the start of the climb. In fact, it's probably not. There's probably 400 or 500 meters before there's any ascent, if I'm honest. But it's the left-hand turn that will signify that we're going to go up Swakeleys Road, which is essentially an upward-bound hill. So Nothing in all of these early stages is really going to split the peloton other than sheer power and, I suppose, strength and ability. So I'm sure, as ever, the peloton will probably be split into a couple of large groups by now. A few individuals not in either, but largely people will be in the fastest group or the second fastest group, because it hasn't been anything to split this race. That will all change as we go up Swakeleys, and it's not the hardest hill you'll ever do, and it's steeper at the top than it is at the bottom. But I think it's long enough. It's about 1 kilometre long. That should, I think, be enough to fragment the groups, and you might just find that there's 3, maybe even 4 groups after the hill. Not immediately after the hill, because I think people regroup afterwards. We do get over the hill. There's another little dip with a very small climb. We'll go over a main roundabout, and then we're going to turn right with a big descent. After that descent, it's mainly flat all the way home, so you're not going to get many great opportunities to attack. So here we come. This is the left turn into Swakeleys Road at Hillingdon Village. You can see the old water pump building just on your right there. More modern shops on your left, and the old church on your right now. As I say, it possibly is rising, but not by very, very much at this stage. Probably another 400 or 500 metres to go before the real incline starts. And as I say, it's right at the end where you get the steepest bit. So we go along here, just past the old Bike Wires shop. And it's a Trek dealer. And as I say, not much of a gradient here, if at all. But as I say, it's the quiet before the storm, and it all starts probably about now. And you can just see that road's beginning to rise, isn't it? Swakeleys Road, a dual carriageway, so you can go quite fast along here without too much traffic irritating us. I'm not really sure why it's a dual carriageway. It's not that busy of a road. And you can see the gradient now just beginning to creep up a little bit, but it's only when we go over a little mini roundabout in a moment that the gradient will start to really bite. This is a nice steady climb. I'm using this in one of the other races in the series where we only go up to the mini roundabout and then do a 180-degree turn and come down the other side of that dual carriageway. That's the peloton pin-up. If you look for that race, it comes up here. Although it doesn't start at the beginning, it joins the hill just where the gradient starts to go up. But you can see it's quite a steady climb, so attritionally you'll probably lose a few riders from any group on this hill. And as I say, once we go past the mini roundabout, which is probably on the horizon, where the horizon is that you can see now, that's where the mini roundabout is. The road swings around to the left and it ramps up a little bit. That is going to be phase 2 of this climb. But I think phase 1 itself will see a few people drop off just because of the length of the climb rather than the gradient. We'll see. Well warned and well prepared. You might, of course, all just sort of grit your teeth and deal with it because you expected it. As you can see, the gradient's gone up a little bit just before this mini roundabout already. It's still not the worst bit, but as I say, when we are near the top, the worst bit will come as soon as we hang left after this roundabout, which is happening now. And you can see just how much the road ramps up a little bit there. But it's up. It's only up where you can see the horizon. I mean, that's the end of the climb to all intents and purposes. It probably is a little bit more, but it's not. Once you've got up to that white wall up there, you've done the worst of it, and anything left is just a moderate little climb up to the next mini roundabout. And after that mini roundabout, let's say we get the dip. After the dip, straight across the main roundabout and down Harefield Road, which is the descent, and then pretty much flat for the rest of the ride. So this is it. This is the first roundabout, and then we start going down here. This is the beginning of the dip. It gets more profound a little bit further on, where you can probably where the horizon of the road ends. That's because that's really where the dip comes into full effect by this brick wall on the right here, and you can see that now. So here we go, down the dip, up the other side will bring us up to, say, the main major roundabout over the A40, and that's more or less, if you remember back to when we were at Hillingdon Station, the bridge, where I got slightly muddled about my timelines. The bridge, I can remember when the bridge wasn't there, but it's probably 25-30 years since it's been built. But the bridge, that bridge, of course, mainly, apart from going over the railway, was also going over the A40, which is, I suppose, before they built the M40, was the main road from London to Birmingham. And as I say, this is going to cross that again shortly after these traffic lights, as you will surely see. And then, as I say, immediately after the roundabout, we're going to shoot down Harefield Road, which is the big descent of the day. I don't think descents always split the field, but I'm quite fascinated on RGT that some of the descents, it is worth pedalling. You can't freewheel down them like one might in the real world, because otherwise you will get left behind. But obviously, after a little grind like that, where you've had to put in a bit of effort and to get up the hill, you can sort of spin a little bit lightly to get your legs back to where you want them. So here we are, here's the right turn. Remember, this will be reasonably sharp on RGT. 90-degree bends will slow you down more than rounder bends, but I do round them a little bit just to make the turn smooth, but not entirely. So I was delighted riding this to see they'd put new tarmac on this hill, which gave us the opportunity to ride even faster, both up and down it. It hadn't quite finished. It was a bit rough at the bottom, but not too bad. I mean, it's still better than it has been. So we get some speed up down this little bit, and there's not a lot to say. It's a descent. We're going to go down into Uxbridge now, so we'll be just off. Well, I suppose in the centre of Uxbridge, to be honest. Not too far from the shops, and in fact, probably going past the end of the street where they sort of end on the high street. But so yeah, central Uxbridge coming up, but we're not really going to see it in all its glory, all the concrete and all the shops, because we're going to be hanging right, going out towards Denham, and again the A40 M40, because the A40 itself converts and ceases to be the A40 at Denham, becomes the M40, and the old A40 is the first bit of road that we will carry on. But again, once a major road, but not so much now because of the motorway and so on and so forth. You can see here that they're in the process of putting a new surface down. It's not quite complete, so it wasn't as smooth as it was earlier on. This is Harefield Road, Uxbridge. It's quite a pleasant climb coming up the other way, and it's certainly one of those news on the way home from Westerley CC club ride. So you just come down here, you'll see Halfords on the left and Uxbridge Magistrates on the court on the right. Uxbridge Magistrates Court is probably the Magistrates Court alongside, well, probably behind Bow Street Magistrates Court, that's probably been mentioned in the news the most. And that's, I can remember way back when, in the 60s and 70s, the amount of rock stars that were caught with drugs at Heathrow Airport. And if you get caught with drugs at Heathrow Airport, you'll be brought to Uxbridge Magistrates Court, which is just on our right now. That's Uxbridge Magistrates Court. Not the building with the green, but it's just opposite that. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones have made many appearances in Uxbridge Magistrates Court, caught at Heathrow in possession with certain banned substances, and their cases were there, which often meant the paparazzi were all outside to get pictures of rock stars coming out the court. I don't hear so many now, but the sort of crimes you can get at the airport, and I suppose it's probably more likely to be, I don't know, somebody of some sort of dissident nature or something like that, that's going to be picked up at Heathrow, and if they are charged with anything, the initial charge will be at magistrates' court. I'm not a lawyer, but as I remember, I think when you are criminally charged, you're initially charged at a magistrates' court, and they might be deferred to a Crown Court if appropriate. But I'd say, I don't know. I'm not. I'd say Crown Court, criminal court. I'm not 100% sure, but I do have a feeling that traditionally, even the big cases that go through the criminal courts are initially announced and pushed over from the magistrates' court. So Uxbridge Magistrates' Court has probably had a colourful existence, particularly when compared to other places. But we move on, and we're out in what is known as New Denham. I think that's because actually it's an overspill from Uxbridge, but it's just the wrong side of the border between Greater London and Buckinghamshire to be called part of Greater London or part of Uxbridge, so it's called New Denham. It's not really, well, maybe it is in Denham, but it's how should we say, Denham Village, which we shall see later, is a little way into Buckinghamshire from here, and as I say, I think the name New Denham is probably reference to the fact they can't call it Uxbridge because it's not in London. So all these units along here, I seem to remember there was a big bus depot along here in the past, which isn't there now. It's in the days when all the buses were run by London Transport, but they're franchised out these days. And the little block of flats there was quite interesting because it had a restaurant at the bottom. I don't think it does anymore. And it was one of those old, very well-to-do blocks of flats where they actually put a resident in the basement. Both for residents, the restaurant was for residents and outsiders, but they were odd. And there's not many left. I mean, there's certainly one in up near Regent's Park and up near Lord's that still exists. It's called Oslo Court, but I think there used to be quite a few of these things, and there's not many left. But Denham Lodge there, which is a block of flats, definitely one of those posh blocks of flats with a well-to-do restaurant at the bottom. But again, from a riding respect, it's fairly straight here. It's nothing. There's no gradient. You don't have to suffer the rough tarmac that we do along this stretch of road. It's not too bad, but it's just got little cracks and bumps in it along the way. So here we are at the Denham roundabout. The Denham roundabout is where the A40 out of London suddenly becomes the M40. So it changes from an A road to a motorway, autoroute, autobahn, whatever you want to call it. And this roundabout is where you have to get off if you're not going on the motorway coming out of London, or basically get off if you're not going back to, you're not going into London, I guess, particularly with the emissions rules. So if you're a lorry with bad emissions, you'd probably get off at this roundabout. This roundabout used to be one big roundabout, but now it's, to give the traffic designers something to do, it's all been segregated into little mini sort of sections along the way. So we just came round a roundabout with a set of lights here. That's the motorway going across the top there. So, you know, what we were on when it was originally built, this was just one big roundabout, but as I say, it's a series of little junctions in a circle these days. We're not going all the way round. We are going to do it twice, though. Not all the way around twice. We are going to visit this twice. So this little bit section we're going along now, we don't do twice. But at the next intersection roundabout, coming up very shortly, on the right is the entrance to Colne Valley Country Park, where the name Colne gets brought into this race. So this roundabout here. The finish is just to our right up there. So we will be coming back down this little stretch of road. So it's one place where if you do look at your Strava map after you've ridden it, and it looks like you rode the same road twice, It's this little stretch here, and that is the only place this happens on this race. But there we are. It's the Denham roundabout. We do cycle round here. This is filmed during COVID, so there's less traffic than there'd normally be. But surprisingly, again, because this road here, which is both the A40 and the A412 actually, but it was a major road once, but it isn't now because the motorway has taken all the traffic. So even though this looks like a big busy road, it's actually far more cyclable than you think. In fact, this little place here on the left, the white building nursery, there's a number of cyclists sort of meet up for rides just there, so people will use this as an outlet. I'm not sure that I would. I mean, it's very rideable and doable, but as I say, I don't think it's the best starting point. But it's a pretty popular starting point for rides out of London. Essentially, you've already come out of London. So still flat. We're going to go up to set of traffic lights here. Turn right. This is one of those rare places where you see two petrol stations that have survived. Now, I am fascinated by the decline in not only pubs, but petrol stations as well. Pubs I can understand a little bit, but petrol stations, I think a lot of the decline in the number of petrol stations is because the supermarkets and retailers have put a lot of very cheap petrol stations within their premises. So you can see here there's one of those old-fashioned places where there's two big petrol stations, obviously not the same companies. You can see one's SO, one's BP, and they survive. Now, the other thing that surprises me is, yes, they survived, but many, many years ago, they would have seen a lot more traffic coming along this road, so it would have been far more lucrative, one would have thought. Anyway, round to the right, as we go past the petrol stations that are still there, and we leave the main road. This is the A412, so if you went straight on at the lights, it becomes the A40 on its own. If you go this way, it's the A412. The little section we rode up to the lights is actually both roads. But we're not going to stay on this very long. It's the London North Orbital Road, the A412, which does a big circle all the way around London. Or certainly the northern half, sorry. It does an arc around the northern half of London. But we're going to turn off here and we're going to go into Denham Village. So this is the real Denham. There's another place called Denham Green a bit further up. And it's up by there's a Denham Aerodrome as well. But this is the old historic Denham. And very nice it is too, as you will see in a moment. It retains a lot of old sort of British village charm. And has three pubs in the centre with a little bit of a green. And yeah, I mean, people, it's particularly in the summer, will certainly drive out here just to have a drink at one of the three pubs in the pretty little village. Pretty little village is just coming up after the bridge, the narrow bridge that we're about to go over. As you can see here. As we go over the bridge, you'll just see how nice, and it's got that old charm of an old village. I mean, certainly a few cyclists I've taken along here have remarked they didn't even realise it was here, and that's partly because you wouldn't ever drive down this road. It's you drive on the main roads, and people who weren't brought up in the area had no idea that this picturesque little village still remained locked behind the main roads, slightly out of view. But you've got to see them here on Westerly CC VR Race Previews YouTube channel, whatever we call it. I think it's just Westerly CC, to be honest. To go past the church. In fact, the finish of this race will be at that church, but not on this road, just about sort of 50, 60 metres in the other direction. So we're actually, as we pass the church, both by the finish and on the route. But as I say, I'm not going to show you where the finish is from this angle because it's, as I say, a few metres to our left. Again, this, it's quite fast and flat, so expect a sprint finish because that's just what's going to happen. We've been past a very pretty English village, or British village, should I say. You can't quite see, there's a house on your right, the white. I always think that should be a house that's situated in northern France. I mean, I think the shutters probably do that, but that house looks very, very French, and it looks very, very nice too. So there's kind of nice little Franco flavour as we go through here. This little bit, we're heading back towards the main A40, A412 road to do that little bit that we do twice. Denham becomes a little less picturesque, shall we say, in this section. These houses obviously more modern and built for functional reasons. But this is Denham. As I say, most people don't ever see Denham in its true glory because they will be riding along riding and driving along the A40 or A412. But if you do a little cut through, you find this little gem of an English village that almost shouldn't be there that close to London. As we come back down to the end of this road, we will rejoin the main dual carriageway that I mentioned earlier. We do twice. We'll be on that for a very short time, and then we head into Colne Valley Country Park, and just beyond that we finish in the Buckinghamshire Golf Club. The Buckinghamshire Golf Club doesn't sound that exciting, but unbelievably is a delightful little golf club with some very nice gardens. I haven't walked around the Colne Valley Park, but judging by the amount of people that park in the car park for a walk around it, I should imagine it's quite pleasant, shall we say. So here we are, the bus goes by. The bus line is called the Chiltern Hundreds. Chiltern Hundreds are a historical name for the areas that were deemed to be in the Chilterns. Hundreds were little departments or areas or districts that Britain was divided up into within counties. I don't really know what hundreds means, and I have tried to research that, and historians say it's not clear. But this would have been in one of the Chiltern Hundreds, probably the Chiltern Hundred of Stoke. So here we are. We've now left all the main busy roads, and we're going into Colne Valley Country Park. This is quite busy along here most Sunday mornings because they have a big car boot sale. And when I say they have a car boot sale, it is huge. It is absolutely massive. And there's traffic jams, the amount of people coming to it. But this has been during COVID. There is, on Sunday morning, it's not open. I think if COVID lockdown hadn't been in place, I would have just had to do this on a Saturday because I don't think I could have driven along here when the car boot sale was on. Shortly towards the end of this, as I say, it's going to remain flat. We're going to hit the car park from the Colne Valley Country Park. Obviously, we're going to stick to the road, so we're not going to actually venture into the country park, so you're not going to see too much of it. But as I say, scenically, it will mainly be trees, and there will be no massive hills for examination by the public, and certainly by you, certainly today, because we're not going to venture into the park. Nevertheless, here we are. This is you can see all the cars parked there for people that are obviously walking around the park somewhere else, not exactly here. So I just dive around the sleeping policeman there. Right, now we go through those gates. We're no longer technically in the country park. We've gone into the Buckinghamshire Golf Club, and very pleasant this looks too. And you'll see nice, well-kept little roads. But this is not entirely exclusive. I think it is a members' club, but they can't stop people walking through here, I believe, because as you'll see in a second, we'll hang a left, which will take us into what I call the finish straight. So for you as an RGT racer, the next left-hand turn is the point at which you should be racing and putting your foot down for the sprint. It's dead flat. It won't be difficult. You can see the little lakes and sort of amusements they built into the Buckinghamshire Golf Club, and it looks very nice, and the waterways make it nice. There's boats and everything. But here's that left turn. Right, we are now in the sprint. So it's everyone for themselves from here. Put your foot down on that left turn, because there is going to be an attack of some sort, and if you don't put your foot down, somebody else will. It is flat, it is straight, it is to the finish. So, not a lot to say other than we are cycling through the golf course grounds. If you look to your right and your left, you'll see the traits of a golf course, and not so much greens, I think, but certainly bunkers and teeing off points. I might be wrong. And what you see here is people coming out of Denham for a walk, and they will probably sort of take a look at the village, I guess, maybe not. But they will certainly, I think most of them, be having a walk around the country park, the Denham Country Park, the Colne Valley Country Park, which is something of an attraction for locals. I often think they're probably nicer places to go out and walk through farmers' fields, but they're not as well advertised, and they don't have car parks and things. So this is it. When we get to those gates, we finished. There's one bunch of people who didn't really see me coming, I had to shout at, and I think probably took away the opportunity for more interesting insight into who's buried here, who's been part of the history of this place, and so on and so forth. That's the church we passed earlier, just outside Denham. In fact, we're almost at Denham Village because we've done the loop. Enjoy the race. Good luck. Hope you do well.